Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and non binary friends. If it's your first time here, welcome. And if it's not, welcome back to Actors with Issues with me, your host, Juan Ayala, bringing you another quick and casual chat with the delightful actor from the small screen, the big screen, or the Broadway stage. You've seen today's guest from across film and television, from Sons of Anarchy to Luke Cage, Netflix's True Story, and here to talk with us about their latest project, Escape the Field. It's Theo Rossi. Theo, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Juan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, with Escape the Field, I literally just finished watching it.
Oh,
I
cool.
commend any actor who does horror movies or thrillers just because it's like nonstop, high energy, just, take after take of this exhausting stuff, especially with this particular movie. It sort of takes place in like one span of time.
Yeah.
Did you find that particularly challenging or just exhausting having to just be in this mindset at all times?
Yeah, I look back on this film as I have such kind of a personal relationship with this film. It was the first film out of the pandemic, right?
Mm,
So we didn't even know like if we were ever going to make movies again. And the director, who was a friend of mine, we had worked before on a project years back, but we'd always been in touch about developing all these other projects. He called me, and it was only like a couple of months into the pandemic. He's like, "We're going to try this. We're going to do this movie, and we're going to do it. It's just in a cornfield, and it's like literally in one location, and we're going to be in zones, and we're going to get there 2 weeks early in quarantine, and we're going to be testing 5 days a week, and we're going to do." So it was more of like the experiment for that, and then the
mm,
film was. I hate to say it, the film was kind of like secondary because I was like figuring out because we were one of the first films back in the whole world where I was like, "Is are we going to be able to do this?"
mm,
And I needed like to see if this was possible as a producer, filmmaker, actor, direct, like trying to figure out. So there was that aspect of it, and then when it came down to what it was, the genre of the film, I think when you're in one location like this and you're dealing with these high stakes that are coming with it, and I call it like a situational film, where like
mm,
as an audience member, you're going, what would I do here?
right.
How would I handle this? And I love that, right? But what that also does is it amplifies the acting, right? If the
Mm,
acting's not believable, if the dialogue doesn't work, the film doesn't work. So when you couple all that and you're hamstrung, I mean, we made the movie for no money, right? So it's like you're hamstrung with, all these things that are happening. You just hope it works. But those are my favorite films to do,
mm,
is like there's nothing guaranteed about it, right? It's either going to work or it's not. But at least you know that every single person was like giving every bit of effort. Where I've seen that not necessarily be the case on things that have tons of money or they're, a specific IP or, whatever. It's like you just feel that it's going to be whatever. So that was my kind of my opening of the field.
yeah. And throughout the process, because it was sort of, like you said, a rather COVID friendly movie, it was sort of like one location, very small cast. You don't have to worry about extras coming in and
Mhm.
out on different days. Just the whole process of making the film, how did it differentiate from other maybe smaller projects pre-COVID that you had done?
So the one, I always try to look at everything in life like the positive. What can I take from it? What's the
Mhm,
lesson that happened here? Even in the most dire situations. And I think what was so good about what happened here, and I use that in a very loose way, was rehearsal. We were in quarantine for a couple of weeks, so we had all this rehearsal. We
mhm,
got to know each other. For the ones that didn't know, I've known Shane for 20 years, but for the other people, I've known the director for a long time. But for the other people, we got to know each other more. We got to spend time together. We got to find our rhythms, which then translates on screen. We also couldn't really leave the hotel. So it's
right,
like you're eating together, you're hanging together, you're working out together, you're doing everything together. And that fosters a trust because art is about trust, right? You have to trust each other in
mhm,
in the fact of like we're just gonna like let's just go. Let's try some things. Hey, you want to try this? You want to try that? I'm here for you. That's all comes with familiarity of having each other. So that was a big thing that came from this. And then again, it was also like we were changing things while we were in that hotel, kind of hanging out because it was like, all right, now that I'm seeing this, because we're like kind of setting up these big banquet rooms in this hotel like it's the field and going like, oh well, okay, maybe we'll do this and that. And you never get that
mhm,
pre pandemic, especially on indies, which is what I do a lot of. It's like usually it's just run and gun. Like you just got to go. We got to
Right.
go. And so that was really a really nice thing that occurred from a really, horrific situation of what was
Mhm.
going on.
Yeah, just knowing the process of filming, you usually have like a one take rehearsal for camera, and then the stand-ins come in, and you don't have that time, almost like theater,
No.
to rehearse for a couple of weeks. So that's really great. And again, with the movie, you can totally see this like dynamic of, despite the high stakes in the movie, you can definitely see sort of like the comfort, people trying to comfort each other when there's injuries and there's other things going on in the
Mhm.
movie. So it's great to hear that that was totally the case, sort of behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, and I think, listen, we're all in this for regardless of the project. I mean, very few films and television will ever be mentioned 100 years from now. So ultimately, when you're doing this stuff, it's about the experience, it's
Mm,
about the people, right? It's about how your relationship is on that time that, that's how you build a life. So again, if you go back and you think about it, while it seems all important and everything, and oh my God, this is going to be the greatest thing. Well, maybe we'll talk to me in 50 years, right? If anybody remembers anything about it. So the experience becomes the most important, which means the people become the most important.
mm,
Because I don't know where along the lines we got to this point where like group art like theater, which we just referred to, or where it became a solo sport, because it's surely not about the actors. Definitely not. I don't even know if they're in the top 10. It's about everything else that's going on. It starts with the writing, the directing, the creativity, the imagination that comes with it, the lighting, everything you're setting up, the set design, and then the actor's just part of that team.
mm,
And somewhere along, whatever has happened in society, we've carved out where it's like, no, you're the most important thing. And it's just
right.
not the case, right? So what I think this is, and I'm really happy to see it, it's brought up like this whole team thing of like, we're going to do this together to continue to make this business what it is. And what is this business to me? Movies like this, movies like anything, are just to make people feel something,
Mhm.
to give you entertainment, to take you out of the situation, whatever situation you're in, for a moment, and to let you enjoy or not enjoy or pick apart or love, but it makes you do something else. And I love that about film and television.
Definitely, it's either that laugh, cry, or think. To me,
Love
that's
it.
take away one of those.
Yeah, that's what good art does, right? We
Yeah.
can sit here, both of us, and stare at a Salvatore Dali, and like we're gonna have completely different opinions of what that painting means, right? A
Mhm.
melting clock might mean one thing to me and something completely different to you. That's what's so incredible about this entire thing that we do of entertainment. So I think that with the field, it's just another thing of like, okay, what would I do here?
Yeah.
Huh? What am I? This is a weird situation to be in. Like, what? Okay, and why is this happening? And then we get to ask ourselves these questions, and that's what I was in it for.
Mhm. And just before we wrap up, we always do love to ask this question, especially with folks who've had longer careers, such as yourself. So, is there anything that you know now about the entertainment industry that you wish you'd learned earlier?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot, but the main things I would say is that I'm trying to verbalize this the right way. While it seems like such a big deal, it will happen when it's supposed to happen.
Mm,
But what that doesn't give you it doesn't give you the pass to take your foot off the gas. Like you have to be, there is no plan B. If you're going to be an artist, which is ultimately an outlier from the way society is structured, if you're, it's something different. And when you're going to do anything different, whether it be a podcast or whether it be something that just is not traditional in a sense, you have to not have a plan B, but you also have to understand the most important thing is that it will happen
mm,
when it's supposed to happen. And whatever missed you was supposed to miss you. I never knew that. I took things personal. I kind of was like, why? And why did this happen? And why is that happening? And then as I started everything, hindsight's a million, right? You look back and you go, oh, that happened because if that didn't happen, this wouldn't happen, and that wouldn't happen if this didn't happen. And so everything happens. It's uh, cliche to say everything happens for a reason, but that's one of the things I looked at. It doesn't mean that I ever needed to, I couldn't change it, and I want to keep my foot on the gas, but I needed it. It had to happen the way it's supposed to happen. And it will.
Hmm.
It will if you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, awesome. Totally agree. And just want to throw a few rapid fire questions
Sure.
your way before we go. Fill in the blank. If I weren't working in the arts, I'd be.
I think I'd be like a detective or something. I love figuring things out.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Like
role
you.
have you had the most fun playing?
The most fun, because I think that it was the most outside, was Gene in True Story. I loved
Hmm.
him.
What is the best advice you've ever gotten?
If you're going to do this, if you're going to do this as a career, Katie Seagal told me this. It's hard enough. This is hard enough to do. Uh, don't make it harder on yourself.
Hmm.
Don't be your own worst enemy. Look out for
And
yourself.
yeah. And what's the worst advice you've ever gotten?
Oh, listen to other people. Listen to this person. Listen to, oh, they know what they're talking about. And I go, really? And then you listen to them, and then you go, that was, why did I listen to that person? I should have, if I'm gonna go, like, I'd rather die on my standing than die on my knees. Like, I like, if I'm gonna go, I want to go out on my own sword.
Hmm.
Like, when it comes to these really big decisions, you got to go with your gut, because your gut never lies. Like, you have,
Right.
and then if it doesn't work, at least you can look at yourself and say, I made the mistake,
Right.
not what would have happened because I listened to that person. That was
Yeah.
silly. Yeah.
And lastly, in 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
Do it. Do it, and do it with all your heart.
Hmm. Awesome. Theo, thank you so much. Again, congrats on the movie.
Thank
For
you.
anyone that wants to find you on Instagram, social media, where can they find you?
Oh, anything with Theo. I think at this point, I'm at the one word name, like Prince. I think it all just says Theo or Theo Rossi. I don't know. I'm slowly trying to abandon social media, so we'll see.
Me too, but it's hard when you've got a podcast to market.
Yeah, exactly. Same with me. So I'm not. I say I'm abandoning, but I'm not going.
Awesome. And folks, you can all follow us on Instagram at Actors with Issues. Give me a follow at Juan Ayala Official, and check out all of our full video interviews at youtube.com/Actors with Issues podcast, or listen on the go wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes every Monday. And don't miss Theo Rossi and Escape the Field in select theaters on digital and on demand May 6th. I'm Juan Ayala, and you're listening to Actors with Issues. Almost
Awesome.
choked on the last word there. Jesus.
No, that makes it real. I love that stuff. The real,
One
the real,
take.
the better.